Committee on Correction. I want to thank the Osborne Association Youth Action Council, Vocal New York, Center for Community Alternatives, and the many families of incarcerated individuals, and of course my Assembly colleagues for joining us today to advocate for the Protect In-Person Visitation Act. I am proud to stand alongside criminal justice activists and families of incarcerated individuals in support of this very crucial piece of legislation. After many years of hard work, I see the finish line. The bill passed the Senate yesterday. And is on the Assembly debate list today. This vital bill will codify in-person visitation at all correctional facilities. Right now, the only facilities that have 7-day visitation are maximum security facilities, and even then, it's totally up to the discretion of docs. There's no codification. We have to strengthen existing visitation programs and ensure these programs are more accommodating for the families of the incarcerated. During the COVID-19 pandemic, we saw a trend of reducing in-person visitation and switching to video conferencing in many states. Although it may have been a reasonable substitute during the height of the pandemic, this cannot be a permanent solution. Many states are switching to video visitation permanently. And we cannot allow this to be the norm here in New York.
That's right.
I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I am chair of the Committee on Correction, not the Committee on Punishment. In-person visitation is one of the most essential steps for the rehabilitation of incarcerated individuals. We must continue to foster bonds between family, friends, and loved ones in order to decrease recidivism rates, and it's been proven as such. This is a human rights issue. This is not just an incarcerated individual's matter. This is a family matter.
That's right.
This is another attempt to separate families from one another. We cannot allow this to happen. Please tell me how we can look a child in the eyes and tell them they cannot see their parents again.
That ain't right.
That's not right.
It is heartbreaking, inhumane, and downright cruel. Incarcerated individuals are humans and should not be treated as mere second-class citizens. Who are we to force families apart? The rights of basic human connection should never be threatened. And as long as I'm chair of the Correction Committee, and as long as I'm in the legislature, I will not let that happen. I'll now call upon my colleagues that are here in the order that I saw them, and then we'll go on to hear from some of the advocates. The first member I saw was Farah Soufran Forrest.
I'm here in support of in-person visitations because as a nurse, I deliver family-centered care. And so when I visited women at when I visited women at Taconic, one of the biggest things is that they complained about during the pandemic was not able to connect with their families. I felt the same way. When my father was in the nursing home, I was not able to step up and advocate for him. I was not even there during the last few days, right before he died, in neglect. It's important for families to visit with their person.
Yes.
It's not only about the love and the good news that they bring, the touch, the hug, but then it's the advocacy. Someone seeing them and knows that they're well, and is able to bring their stories back to the community, back to their children and the rest of their loved ones. And so this is why I stand very firmly with this bill. It's a very important piece of legislation, and we are so glad it's up for debate today. And and this is why it needs to pass today.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Assemblyman Forrest, who, by the way, is from Brooklyn. I now call upon one of our new members of the committee, although becoming a senior member of the legislature pretty quickly, but a new member of the Correction Committee, Assemblymember Harvey Epstein from Manhattan.
Well, I'm really proud to be here with you, and great news about it passing the Senate, David, for all your work for incarcerated New Yorkers and their families. It's a really important piece of legislation to say you have a right, a statutory right, to have visitation. Right. I know when I visited family, friends, and loved ones in behind the walls, I know what it felt to kind of go through that system. I know what it felt for them to be with me, to feel connected, to feel like that helped them through the day, through the month, until the next visit. It's really important that we continue to keep families connected, because if you feel like there's hope, you can be hopeful. If you feel like everything's lost, you'll be hopeless. And you will do things because you feel like there's no future. Visitation and families is what we need. So this bill goes a long way to codify a right that we all believe is true, that keeping people with their families is meaningful. So David, thank you for the work. Thank you for chairing the committee and doing all the work that you do. And let's get this bill done today so we can advance to the governor for her signature. Thank you.
One of my relatively new colleagues from Queens, Jessica Gonzalez, who has become a very strong advocate for incarcerated individuals and their family, and I know she's been to Rikers Island many times and has been to a number of the state facilities as well. Jessica Gonzalez Rojas.
We love you, JGR.
Thank you all so much for being here. I'm proud to stand alongside my colleagues, and we're in the middle of session, so I know there's so many more colleagues that support this bill. Listen, this is simple. This is an issue of humanity. As the Assemblymember Weprin said, I have already visited Rikers 3 times, and I visited Bedford Hills twice, a maximum security women's prison, and a juvenile justice facility as well, or injustice, I will say. But what I saw was the deep need for connection, and I got to speak with individuals who have been incarcerated, who were eager to tell their stories, eager to share their solutions, and eager to share the conditions that they were facing behind bars. And I know as a legislator, I was deeply impacted by those stories, and why I feel like such an advocate and an activist on behalf of folks who are incarcerated. But to imagine that these folks can't see their own loved ones, their own family members, their own children, their grandchildren, their parents, their grandparents, those that are helping their community survive while they are held in a cage, that to me seems deeply, deeply inhumane. It's so important to be able to have those in-person visits. Again, being part of that system, it is not a pleasant experience to go to a prison and to be held there. And to, without that sense of humanity, by being able to talk and touch and hug a loved one, it's just really deeply harmful to their well-being and well-being of their communities. So I thank the sponsor for this bill. It is a no-brainer, like an absolute no-brainer. We have 24 hours left, and I thank
I'm now going to call upon some of the advocates in support of this bill. My good friend and someone that's become a real advocate in the legal community for formerly incarcerated individuals and for achieving justice in so many different ways, Jeff Deskovic.
Thank you. My name is Jeffrey Deskovic. I spent 16 years incarcerated in New York State prison system from age 17 to 32 for murder and rape, which I did not commit prior to being exonerated by DNA evidence. While I was incarcerated, receiving visits, particularly in the early years, when I struggled to adjust to being incarcerated, that was essential to me as I struggled with feelings of hopelessness, helplessness, thoughts of giving up, suicidal ideation, receiving that contact from the outside world was very important for me in not succumbing to any of those things. Beyond that, as I saw fellow prisoners, when they would go and get visits from their family and friends, they would come back with a smile on their face. They would talk about dreams of a crime-free life in which they could embark on one career or another that would make their kids or their parents proud of them. And I feel like that element really goes away when there is nobody to come and visit. You know, in addition, as a prisoner, you're really, really vulnerable. And when the administration knows that you have friends and family on the outside that come to visit you, that's like a type of protection. So on that basis, we need to maintain the in-person visitation. And the last point I'll make, which kind of ties into a different point, you know, family contact, community support, that's a key element with respect to rehabilitation and being able to transition back into society, into a crime-free life. So we need those family ties. And I'm sorry, a video visit doesn't cut it. We need it in person. So for all those reasons, I support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. We've been joined by another colleague, another member of the Corrections Committee, someone who actually is celebrating his birthday with us today. Jenny birthday.
I appreciate it, but you know, what we're here today is not about me, right? We're here to talk about the human connection, and we're here to talk about something that really shouldn't be debated. I mean, we're now at what I hope to be the late stage of this pandemic, and you have folks like the mayor of New York City saying he wants to be back at work, right? Because there's value in that human connection. There's value in talking to someone in person, getting human touch, and that doesn't change people who are incarcerated. People who are incarcerated, sometimes, as mentioned right before, what they look forward to for days or weeks is that one visit. That 30-minute, 1 hour visit can be the highlight of their week or their month. So when we talk about boosting mental health, when we talk about just creating an overall better environment within these prison and jail systems, this is a key part of it. And you know, you can have these companies who are probably making thousands or $100,000 saying, "Oh, I want the televisits to continue." We can have that as an option, but we cannot block out what that human connection is. And I really want to thank our corrections chair. I want to thank Vocal, Art, and everyone for always being on the forefront of this. Because we have really, really big issues that we have to tackle in our criminal justice system, but it doesn't overlook the fact that this is not a minimal issue, but although it may be viewed as that by some, but it's still an issue we have to address because people need to have this connection with their family. We want them to have that touch point with family and friends, so when they do come out, they can have that continuity, come back into life, and like we always say, just have an overall better neighborhood. So I'm really proud of this, and I thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you. Now we're going to call upon representatives from Vocal. We have Roger.
Hello everyone, thank you for being here. I'm Roger Clark. I'm formerly incarcerated, having spent 15 years in state prison. I know having a family visit you is of extreme importance. If without that, without that connection of knowing what's going on outside with your families, you're going to be devastated. This is why this bill is so important, and I'm glad that the Senate had the courage to pass it, and I hope that the Assembly do the same. We cannot continue to lock people up and not give them the opportunity to see their family, to hug them, to find out everything that's going on, and for you to tell the family what's going on with you. That bill is important. So I applaud y'all, and I hope that the bill is respected and that bad correction officers do not continue to deprive people, because when you in there, the staff, lawmakers, they don't know what's going on. If you're in the box, if you're in solitary confinement and you have a visit and an officer decides to tell your family, "Nah, go away," there is really no way for that incarcerated individual to let it be known. So I hope that there are safeguards to make sure that there is accountability for those type of action, because now it's law. Thank you.
Representative of Draft and representative of the Center for Community Alternatives. Who wants to speak? Yeah. Marvin?
Good afternoon. Thank you for allowing me to be here today.
Marvin Mayfield.
I just want to say that being a person who was formerly incarcerated myself, I am intimately aware of what it means to be able to look into the person's face, to look into your family member's face, to hug your children, to make some type of connection. There's nothing more important. The most dangerous person walking around a prison is a person without hope. A person without hope. A person without a family who hasn't touched another soul in years. And I mean years. People, men and women who are incarcerated, look forward to this type of interaction with their families. There is nothing that can parallel it by a video or a TV screen or anything else. Nothing but that human touch. We take that away from them, then what are we doing? We're removing a human element from a person that we want to act human. It just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. How can we call ourselves a society of compassion, a society or even a state that's progressive, and even contemplate removing the most important element between human interaction, which is the ability to touch another person's life? So I thank you for this opportunity to speak. I thank you for the chairman of the Corrections Committee, David Wepperin. I thank you for all the members who are working hard on this issue. And I implore you to please continue making sure that this does not happen in New York State.
Come forward. Identify yourself.
My name is Warren O'Malley. I work with several elected officials as well as organizations like CCA, Marvin Mayfield, and Katie Schaefer, Jessica Gonzalez Rojas, which is a blessing. David Wepburn, the chairman of Corrections. JGR made a point. She said these cages. Yes, they're cages, but we're not animals. We're humans. And the problem we have is during COVID, when visits were taken, packages were denied, things were stolen from staff, the uptick from staff to prisoner abuse and assault rose to 115 to 150%. These are numbers that make no sense because last year or months prior to COVID, the numbers were down. So I have to employ the legislature, I have to employ the assembly. Look, if you don't pass this, what you will be doing to a prisoner at that point is giving null of hope. Not none, null. And when there's no hope, that's when it becomes a violent situation for everyone. And we don't want that. We don't want no hope. We want some hope. Because at the end of the day, 95% of these prisoners are coming home to our society. In jest, I said this to many people. I said, if you get incarcerated and you go upstate to New York, they try to infect you. But if you're already infected, they try to make you rabid. And when you get released to society, they want you to spread that infection so they can deploy their unborn legacy pension. That is what's going on if you take away these visits. It is simple. Do not allow it to happen. And before I leave you, I'm going to leave you with this. In 2012, I was in Cayuga Corrections Center. I became a writer in the system, which is shunned upon because you cannot be a legal beagle or a writer. You can't write up staff, you can't write up institutional policies. I became a writer on a nonviolent ticket from a medium B. I went to Attica, Max A. My family panicked. Frankly, they panicked. Ran to Attica to see me, to see if I was marked. Because I got 90 days to keep locked. To see if I was marked. Then I was transferred from Attica to Auburn, they came back up again. That human contact kept me still. Without it, I don't know. Because at the end of the day, we hear that it's corrections, but there's nothing correct about it. And they're not doing anything for us. If it wasn't my family and these lovely elected officials that have been by my side, I don't know where I would be. So once again, to the Assembly, the Senate already passed it. Now it is your turn. This is easy. It is a no-brainer. All you have to do is allow someone to have human contact, a human touch, a hug, a look, a moment to cry, a moment to show affection, a moment to show that you are human. If you take that away, then you're the animal.
Thank you, Warren. Anybody else like to speak? Hey, come forward. Come on down.
Yes. My name is Tiana Taylor. With the RAP campaign, also an actionist with We Got Us Now. But before becoming a member of either of those organizations, I have been the daughter of an incarcerated father since I was 10 years old. My father and I were very close before he became incarcerated, and the main reason we got to keep that connection going is in-person visits. Being able to look your parent in the eyes is just invaluable to a young person. The times in my life where I was, the most confused, maybe struggling with an essay for school, or just really needing to be loved up on, I got to go and see my dad. I got to hold his hands from across the table. It's the little things. I got to walk to the vending machine with him and pick out what we were going to munch on. Those are things that really hold a child of an incarcerated parent down. Those are the things that keep us going. Someone that I really look up to once said, children of incarcerated parents are like an invisible population. I agree. The shame and the stigma that came with having an incarcerated father really weighed on me as a young person. But being able to visit him and see that he was still a human, he still had us, and we had him, really helped. If it wasn't for that, my mental health would not have been the way that it was able to be. And I know so many other young people with parents that are incarcerated need these visits. Since, growing up, I've worked as a mediator at a middle school. So many times, these young girls and boys who are having really stressful times in school actually admitted to me, my parent is incarcerated. I haven't seen them in a while, and it's stressing me out. I can't focus on class because all I'm thinking about is my incarcerated parent and how I don't get to see them after this. This is what we go through. So we need this bill to pass, and I'm so happy that it will be passing today so we can put it in writing and get it codified. So thank you.
Thank you, Tiana. And Tiana, I think, has coordinated more Zoom press conferences in the community than anyone else. So thank you for that during the pandemic. Anybody else like to speak? Go ahead, come forward.
Good afternoon. My name is Greg McPherson. I'm a member of CCA. What I have to say is short and brief. I did 21 years in prison, and my son used to come every day. Every day. And it was him, what he said gave me hope and turned my life around. He told me, he said, Dad, won't you try reaching for the best of me? I said, why? He said, because you'll discover more about the best of yourself. And that turned me around. I went from hanging out in the yard to taking every vocational training inside the jail. And to take that away from a child, how can you take that away from a child, or any child, and be able to tell them that you can't come see your daddy because she's in prison? I thought it was correctional facility. How do you correct me when you're taking away the best thing I have? Hope is a hell of a thing. If you don't have hope.
Okay, I'm hoping we're going to pass this tonight. So